today you're rocking with Redbeard, and we're talking about how to rework Norsca, Wulfrik, and Throgg, and just their general missing mechanics, what we can add. In CA's recent dev table discussion, they said they want to look at adding mechanics to Norsca that represent the raiding aspect of the culture. Well, look no further. Remember how I proposed a more antagonistic version of caravans or convoys for the Dark Elves? The goal, instead of being to deliver trade goods, is to raid and plunder the target location for slaves and or gold. You recruit a Voyage, which would be led by perhaps a modified version of a Marauder Chieftain. These lords would have unique traits dictating what units they would primarily field. The example on screen, Leif Ingerson, would likely have a trait called something like Monster Tamer. Along the Voyage, which would be sea-based, unlike the example screen, the army would encounter events/dilemmas and battles which could reward or damage the army depending on the player's decisions. If you've played Chorfs or Cathay, you get the gist. Now, what's this about slaves, you ask, or Thralls, as Norscans call them? Norsca in lore has a slave economy, like Chorfs and Delphs, so I think they should have their own Thrall Economy. Example of things you could do with that. Spend Thralls on provincial commandments, similar to Kislev's new rework or Chorf labor actions. Spend Thralls on powerful rites or rituals, similar to Dark Elves. Perhaps Norsca and Dark Elves could spend Thrall slaves, similar to Chorf laborers, with instant completion of construction to settlement buildings. You would also gain Thralls with the enslaved captives post-battle option, in addition to the casualty replenishment, or maybe those are split into two options, representing that you are either absorbing them into the army or sending them to the working camps. The CA devs also spoke of expanding monster hunts, so instead of just the major Arcanum quest battles, there will be smaller, more regional-based hunts, so this indicating different monster hunts for different land climates, but also hopefully at sea. They may pop up like rogue armies, or perhaps like random ship locations, or perhaps they are like Wood Elf settlement invasions where they pop up in your settled regions and must be handled before they grow too powerful. Besides these regional hunts, though, the major quest battle hunts only covered Warhammer 1 and base game Warhammer 2 monsters. So on screen I put what I think are currently the best monsters of every race that have come since the Monstrous Arcanum last was updated. A well-thought and patiently crafted quest battle for a unique version of each monster would add a lot to Norsca by itself. Also, make each unique monster, new or otherwise, available to their respective races. Let us be rid of the days where we have to download a mod to use these monsters, please. Just make them like a regiment of renown. My sort of last big ticket is a rework to Allegiance of the Gods mechanic. First big change would be to add a 5th undivided dedication. Perhaps this dedication unlocks when certain requirements are met. Level 1 undivided unlocks when you have at least 2 of the monogods at level 1. Level 2 undivided unlocks when you have 1 monogod at level 2 and 2 separate others at level 1. Finally, level 3 undivided requires at least 2 monogod at level 2 and the other 2 at level 1. Or 1 monogod at level 3 and the other 3 at level 1. Hope you're following. Lol. This I think would just add a lot of variety to how you build your allegiance. Remembering that raising a settlement for 1 god plus 6 allegiance lowers it for the other 3, -2, which may need to be dropped to a -1 for what I propose with undivided to work. Not sure. Maths may need adjusting, though. For Undivided's unique character, why not the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, Trigard Mountain Cleaver? Yet another way to get more mileage out of these Monstrous Arcanum monsters. I gave Undivided Slaaneish's current rewards of 10% upkeep reduction to all armies and Lord Recruit rank +5 at max level. Slaanesh needs new ones anyways that feel more Slaanesh. The Eagle, Hound, and Crow all feel much more fitting to their respective monogod, with the new Thrall Economy, plus 100% Thralls gained would be great, and 10% speed to all your characters, marauders, monsters, and mammoths. Bring it all home. But I also think the rewards don't go far enough. A simple addition could be the monogod army abilities. At level 1 Champion of the Hound, you unlock 1 or 2 uses of Horn of Corn. At level 2, you unlock Relentless Rage, and at 3, Blade of Corn. Having more than 3 army abilities would get silly if you are quote-unquote undivided though, so I would just have it limited to the top 3, defaulting to the most dedicated monogod first, then level of the ability next. Also, back in Warhammer 1 I remember Nurgle upon max level unleashed a devastating plague across the whole map, and the other monogods having their own equivalent, the details of which I can't recall or find in research. I believe these unique and powerful events eventually became replaced by the unique characters such as Azric the Maze Keeper, but I say why replace? Though keep them in addition to the character. The player has to work hard enough and sacrifice other dedications for it. For Nurgle, perhaps there's a 50% chance for an enemy, army, or settlement in your faction leader's region to gain a unique and deadly plague that has no effect on your faction. For Tzeentch, perhaps there is a 10% chance for an enemy settlement to be transferred to your faction, but only within your faction leader's province. For Khorne, a 20% chance to summon a blood host upon raising a settlement with your faction leader. For Slaanesh, a 20% chance to summon a disciple army upon taking a settlement with your faction leader. Finally, we should be able to recruit a limited number of monogod units at each allegiance level. So for Khorne at level 1, you get Khorne-marked Marauders, Horsemen with Throwing Axes, and Forsaken. Level 2, Khorne-marked Chaos Warriors, Chariots, and Chaos Spawn. Level 3, Khorne-marked Chosen and Knights. They would have a separate recruitment tab with unit caps. First level, units, capped at say 20. Second level, 12, third level 6. Meaning you could field roughly 2 full Khorne armies if you wanted. With all those additions proposed, I do not want to make Norsca feel more like Chaos Light. That's why I think a 5th cumulative and corresponding undivided allegiance is important, and the way I would most likely be playing. Final note on the race rework: in Warhammer 1, Norsca could only settle in their homeland or at coastal settlements or ports. I believe everything else was an outpost, similar to Wood Elves. I understand why they were changed to normal settlements everywhere. I'm just not sure it's the ultimate best answer. I like being incentivized to build along the coasts for a semi-sea focused campaign. Alls I'm saying is maybe there is a middle ground where, say, non-coastal, non-Norscan major settlements are normal, but minor non-coastal, non-Norscan settlements are outposts. Though this, of course, would depend on the addition of Norscan, non-Norscan factions being added, such as Sale of the Kurgans and Monamim of the Famir. Then perhaps your major coastal ports are also slightly stronger, and then again, stronger if you're in the homeland. I briefly spoke of how to rework Wulfrik and Throgg in my last video, but now I'll go more in depth. Next item on the list, now that he's got new voice lines, is give all the trolls to the Troll King. All Throgg as currently is Norse controls and Ice Trolls, a travesty really. Norse controls are not even a reskin of Chaos Trolls, who get an armored variant. Port the armored variant to Norsca, please. It's easy. While you're at it, make an armored variant of Ice Trolls. Then we go to the greenskin variants, but not just River and Stone Trolls, but the Giant River Troll Hag Hero too. Unless they wanted to give us the loreful Norskin, essentially reskins, being Sea and Snow Trolls. Same units as River and Stone, respectively, with the added benefit of frostbite attacks or even auras. Bile Trolls are another easy one, especially being chaos aligned. Then we don't have Lava Trolls in-game, but they would be a cool addition as well. Flaming attacks lose their weakness to fire, but also possibly lose regeneration altogether. Throgg would just need a monstrous generic lord to pull it all together, lead his other armies. Hopefully this will be covered by CA changing the Famir Noble to a lord option. Forgoing that, if Throgg has a giant sea troll hag hero, maybe he can get an ice troll lord unique to his faction or something. But I wouldn't necessarily stop there, for Throgg isn't just the Troll King, he's also the Lord of the Monstrous Horde. There is lore specifically stating that he led Dragon Ogres, Shaggoths, Minotaurs, and Gorgons. Other units that might seem fitting and useful to me might be Ungor Raiders, Bestigors, and Feral Ice Bears, because why not? Furthermore, if you gain enough allegiance for Throgg, with Tzeentch, let's say, you can unlock Tzeentch Beastman units. Same for Khorne, Nurgle, or Slaanesh. Perhaps all these Monstrous Horde units are locked with unit caps that you can increase as you progress your campaign. Speaking of campaign, Throgg needs Winter Corruption. I want to cover the world over with ice and snow. Perhaps he uses this corruption to spread his Winter's Wrath storms. It is said within lore that Throgg led his monstrous kin in ambushes and midnight attacks, each more successful than the last. Throgg had a knack for using the harsh climate of the north as his ally, for trolls are quite at home in the gnoming cold. To them, a fierce ice shard blizzard is no more troubling than a light summer rain. Before long, the Troll King became infamous, known as Wintertooth. So let's say Throgg has a ritual he can perform. Every 30 turns, lasting 10 turns, could act pretty identical to Altharion's Mists of Yvresse, causing massive attrition, leadership, and movement range penalties to enemies in affected regions, whilst increasing ambush success chance and gaining an army ability for your armies. Finally, the ritual can be unlocked, upgraded, and spread by leveling your major settlements and spreading corruption. And Wulfrik's is really simple to explain because Arbal, the Undefeated's mechanic, should just be given to Wulfrik. Teleport all over the world to complete challenges. Upon success, gain powerful rewards and boons. Upon defeat, you automatically fail the campaign. As it is said, Wulfrik will be tortured infinitely evermore by the Dark Gods if he is defeated. So it fits like a glove. They are very similar characters. I'm not saying copy-paste is always a good thing, but we also don't need to reinvent the wheel. Lorefully, aboard Seafang, he can teleport to any body of water. If that could be represented in addition to the challenge as teleports, that could be something. The other major missing element to Wulfrik is Seafang, though. Yes, he has a unique bound spell in battle, where he summons Seafang to wreck shop, and we should definitely keep that. But Wulfrik also needs shipbuilding in the same vein as the Vampire Coast. So Wulfrik turns into a moving settlement, which blends nicely with his teleporting gameplay. I would look at Vampire shipbuilding and then just Norscify them up. Making Wulfrik all he can be is exactly that simple. I could get into how he should lose his chariot and mammoth mounts and focus more on being a duelist, but CA have only ever added mounts, never removed, so it seems like a moot point, but yeah, CA, don't fail my boy Wulfrik. He needs the two mechanics I mentioned specifically to feel perfect. Then if Norsca gets the raiding voyages on top of this, chef's kiss. And we're going to close this video here, but I still have more to talk about as far as Norsca and content, such as legendary lords and factions that could come after the Tides of Torment DLC. So that video, or videos, should be coming out either shortly after this one or in conjunction with. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for being here. If you liked what you viewed, please like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time. Peace.